The dust swirled around his boots as Nathan Pierce watched the woman across the street press her last coin into the trembling palm of a one-legged beggar. And in that single moment, he knew he was looking at someone who would change his life forever. Nathan had seen plenty in his 26 years riding the territories between Kansas and Colorado, but something about the way this young woman smiled at the old man, her own worn dress and thin frame suggesting she needed that coin far more than she was willing to admit, struck him somewhere deep in his chest. The year was 1877, and Unionville, Colorado was experiencing another harsh summer where charity was as rare as rain. He stood outside the general store, his hand frozen on the door handle, watching as the woman patted the beggar's shoulder with genuine warmth before turning away. Her blonde hair, though dusty from the road, caught the afternoon sunlight, and her face held a serenity that seemed impossible given the hardship written in every line of her posture. She wore a faded blue dress that had been mended so many times the original fabric was hard to distinguish, and her boots were nearly worn through at the soles. Nathan had come to Unionville 3 months ago, taking a job at the Double R Ranch just outside town. He had been drifting since the war had taken his father and brother, leaving him and his mother alone on a farm they could not maintain. When she passed 2 years ago, he sold what little remained and took to the open country, working cattle drives and ranch jobs wherever he could find them. He made good money, saved most of it, and kept to himself. Women had interested him from time to time, but none had ever made him forget to open a door before. The woman walked with quiet dignity toward the boarding house at the end of the street, and Nathan found his feet moving before his mind caught up. He crossed the dusty road, dodging a wagon loaded with timber, and quickened his pace. She was climbing the steps to the boarding house when he finally found his voice. "Excuse me, miss." She turned, her green eyes meeting his with a mixture of wariness and curiosity. Up close, he could see the delicate freckles across her nose and the way her lips pressed together as if she was accustomed to defending herself against unwanted attention. Yes, her voice was soft but steady, neither inviting nor dismissive. Nathan suddenly realized he had no idea what to say. He removed his hat, running a hand through his dark hair. "I saw what you did back there, for the old man." Her expression shifted to something guarded. "I do not see how that concerns you, sir." "It does not," Nathan admitted, feeling foolish. "I just wanted to say it was a kind thing." "Not many folks would do that." "Then not many folks have learned what matters in this life," she replied simply. "Now if you will excuse me." "Wait," Nathan said, his hand reaching out but stopping short of touching her arm. "I apologize for being forward. I am Nathan Pierce. I work at the Double R Ranch. I just thought maybe I could buy you supper tonight, to make up for that coin you gave away." She studied him for a long moment, her eyes searching his face for something he hoped she would find. "I do not accept charity, Mr. Pierce." "It is not charity," he said quickly. "It is just supper between two people. You would be doing me a kindness, actually. I have been eating at the ranch house for 3 months, and I am desperate for a change of scenery." A small smile played at the corner of her mouth. "You are persistent." "I have been called worse things." She laughed then, a sound like water over stones, clear and genuine. "Prudence Baker," she said, extending her hand. "And I suppose I could manage supper, though I should warn you I have very little to contribute to conversation." "I have only been in Unionville for 2 weeks." Nathan took her hand, noting how small it felt in his, how delicate despite the calluses that spoke of hard work. 2 weeks and already giving away your last coin. You are either very generous or very foolish." "Perhaps both," Prudence said, retrieving her hand. "The hotel dining room at 6 o'clock. "I will be there," Nathan promised. She nodded and disappeared into the boarding house, leaving him standing on the steps feeling like he had just roped a wild Mustang and had no idea what to do next. The rest of the afternoon passed in a strange blur. Nathan completed his errands in town, picking up supplies for the ranch, but his mind kept returning to the woman with the green eyes and the generous heart. He found himself wondering about her story, what had brought her to Unionville, why she was alone, and most pressingly, how he could convince her to let him see her again after tonight. At 5:30, Nathan returned to town, freshly washed and wearing his best shirt, a dark blue cotton one his mother had made before she died. He had shaved carefully, nicking himself only once, and brushed his hat free of dust. The hotel dining room was modest but clean, with checkered tablecloths and oil lamps that cast a warm glow as evening approached. Prudence arrived exactly at 6, and Nathan stood immediately when he saw her. She had changed into a dress of pale yellow that, while clearly not new, suited her complexion beautifully. Her hair was pinned up, revealing the graceful curve of her neck, and she moved with a quiet confidence that made his heart beat faster. "Miss Baker," he said, pulling out her chair. "Mr. Pierce," she replied, settling into the seat with a grateful nod. "I must confess I am surprised to find you actually here. I half expected you to have thought better of your invitation." "Why would I do that?" She folded her hands on the table, meeting his eyes directly. "Because I am nobody, Mr. Pierce. I have no family, no prospects, and no money. Men who issue supper invitations typically expect something in return, and I have nothing to offer." Her candor shocked him, but he respected it. "Then I suppose we are both surprised tonight, because I expect nothing except the pleasure of your company, and maybe to understand why a woman with nothing gave away her last coin." The waitress arrived, saving Prudence from having to answer immediately. They ordered simple meals, beef stew for him and chicken with vegetables for her, along with fresh bread and coffee. When they were alone again, Prudence studied the tablecloth for a moment before speaking. "His name is Joseph, the man I gave the coin to. He lost his leg in the war, and nobody helps him. He sits on that corner every day, and people walk past like he does not exist. I know what it feels like to be invisible, Mr. Pierce. I could not walk past him again without at least acknowledging his existence." "You talk like you have been seeing him longer than 2 weeks. I have been walking past him every day since I arrived. Today was the first day I had anything to give." Nathan leaned back in his chair, studying her. "Where did you come from, if you do not mind my asking?" "Kansas," Prudence said. "A small farm outside Topeka. My parents died last year within 3 months of each other. Fever took them both. I tried to keep the farm going, but I am only 21 years old and I could not manage it alone. The bank took it for debts, and I had nowhere to go. I heard there were opportunities in Colorado, so I used what little money I had left to buy a coach ticket west." "What kind of opportunities are you looking for?" "Any kind," she said with a slight smile. "I can cook, clean, sew, and work hard. I am staying at the boarding house and doing laundry for the other residents in exchange for my room, but I need to find real employment soon. I was planning to inquire at the general store tomorrow. I heard they might need help." Their food arrived, and they ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Nathan found himself watching the way Prudence ate slowly, savoring each bite as if it might be her last meal. She had the manners of someone raised properly, but the hunger of someone who had missed too many meals recently. "The general store is run by Harold Grimsby," Nathan said finally. "He is not a generous man. He works his employees hard and pays them little." Prudence set down her fork. "Do you know of somewhere better? The Double R might need someone in the ranch house. The owner's wife has been complaining that she needs help with cooking and housekeeping. They run a large operation, lots of hands to feed. The pay would be fair, and you would have a place to live." Her eyes lit up with hope, then dimmed just as quickly. "I could not ask you to arrange that for me. I will not be indebted to anyone." You would not be indebted, you would be working for it. I just happen to know about the position. What you do with the information is up to you. Prudence considered this, taking a sip of her coffee. Why are you helping me? You do not know anything about me. I know you gave your last coin to a beggar. I know you speak honestly even when it costs you. I know you have pride and work ethic, and you are trying to make your own way in the world. That is more than I know about most people I have met in my life. She smiled then, a full, genuine smile that transformed her face from merely pretty to genuinely beautiful. You are an unusual man, Mr. Pierce. Nathan, he said. Please call me Nathan. Nathan, she repeated, testing the name, and you must call me Prudence. Prudence, he said, liking the way it felt in his mouth. Tell me more about Kansas. What was it like growing up there? She relaxed into her chair, and for the next hour they talked about everything and nothing. She told him about the farm, about helping her father plant wheat, and her mother tend the vegetable garden. She spoke of long summers and harsh winters, of a life that was simple but filled with love. He told her about Missouri, where he grew up, about learning to ride and rope before he could read, about the war that took half his family and the loneliness that followed. By the time they finished eating, the dining room had emptied except for them and one elderly couple in the corner. Nathan did not want the evening to end, but he could see the exhaustion creeping into Prudence's eyes, the way her shoulders began to slump despite her efforts to sit straight. Let me walk you back to the boarding house, he offered. That would be kind of you. Outside, the summer night was cooling down and stars spread across the sky in brilliant profusion. The street was quiet except for sounds drifting from the saloon 3 blocks down. Nathan offered his arm, and after a brief hesitation, Prudence took it. Thank you for supper, she said as they walked slowly. It was the best meal I have had in longer than I can remember. It was the best company I have had in longer than I can remember, Nathan replied honestly. Would you let me speak to Mrs. Randolph at the ranch about the position? Just to see if it is still available, Prudence stopped walking and turned to face him. Why are you doing this? Please tell me the truth. Nathan took a breath, knowing his answer mattered more than anything he had said all evening. Because when I saw you give that coin away, something shifted in me. I have been drifting for a long time, Prudence, just moving from one place to another without any real purpose. But watching you choose kindness when you had nothing left to give, I realized I want to be near someone like that. I want to know what it feels like to care about something again. Does that make sense? She searched his face in the dim light from the street lamps. It makes sense, she said quietly. And yes, you may speak to Mrs. Randolph, but Nathan, I need you to understand something. I will not be any man's charity case or obligation. If I take this position, it will be because I earned it and can do the work. And whatever this is between us, it needs to grow honestly or not at all. I would not want it any other way. They resumed walking, and too soon they arrived at the boarding house steps. Prudence released his arm and turned to face him once more. Good night, Nathan. Good night, Prudence. I will come by tomorrow afternoon to let you know what Mrs. Randolph says. I will be here. He watched her climb the steps and disappear inside before he walked back to where he had left his horse. The ride back to the ranch under the stars felt different somehow, as if the world had shifted slightly on its axis and everything looked new. The next morning, Nathan approached Martha Randolph while she was hanging laundry behind the ranch house. She was a sturdy woman in her late 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, but Nathan had learned she had a kind heart beneath the gruff exterior. Mrs. Randolph, might I speak with you? She looked up from pinning a sheet to the line. What is it, Pierce? I am a bit busy, as you can see. I heard you might be looking for help in the house, someone to help with cooking and cleaning. Her eyebrows rose. Where did you hear that? Around. I know someone who might be perfect for the position. She is hardworking, honest, and has experience running a household. She just arrived in town and needs employment. Martha set down her laundry basket and crossed her arms. And with this she happened to be young and pretty. Nathan felt heat rise in his face. She is young, yes, and I suppose she is pretty, but that is not why I am recommending her. Then why are you? Because she is the kind of person who gives her last coin to someone who needs it more. Because she speaks the truth even when it costs her. Because I think she would work harder than anyone you could hire, and she would be grateful for the opportunity. Martha studied him for a long moment, then picked up her basket. Bring her out tomorrow morning. I will talk to her myself and make my own decision. But Pierce, if you are vouching for her, her actions reflect on you. Understand? Yes, madam, I understand. What is her name? Prudence Baker. Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock sharp. Thank you, Mrs. Randolph. Nathan rode back to town that afternoon as promised, his heart beating faster as he approached the boarding house. Prudence was sitting on the front porch, mending a shirt that clearly belonged to one of the other boarders. She looked up as he dismounted, shading her eyes against the sun. That was quick, she said, setting aside her sewing. Mrs. Randolph wants to meet you tomorrow morning at 8. I should warn you, she is tough but fair. She will ask you direct questions and expect honest answers. Prudence stood, smoothing her dress. I can handle direct questions. Will you be there? I will be working, but I can meet you when you arrive and make the introduction. Then I will be ready. She paused, twisting her hands together. Nathan, I do not know how to properly thank you. You can thank me by getting the job and letting me see you sometimes, he said, the words coming out before he could reconsider them. A slow smile spread across her face. I think that could be arranged. The next morning dawned clear and hot. Nathan was waiting by the ranch entrance at 7:45 when he saw Prudence walking up the long road from town. She had clearly started early to arrive on time, and her face was flushed from the heat and exertion. She wore the same blue dress from the day he met her, freshly washed and pressed, and her hair was pulled back in a simple braid. You walked, Nathan said, moving to meet her. The boarding house had no horse to lend me, and I could not afford to hire one, she replied matter-of-factly. It is only 3 miles, in this heat. You should have sent word, I would have come for you. I need to learn the way regardless, Prudence said. Besides, I have walked farther for less important reasons. Nathan led her to the ranch house, a sprawling structure of wood and stone that served as home to the Randolph family and hub of the entire operation. Martha Randolph was waiting on the back porch, her arms crossed and her expression unreadable. Mrs. Randolph, this is Prudence Baker. Prudence Martha Randolph. Madam, Prudence said with a respectful nod. You walked from town, Martha asked. Yes, madam, in this heat. It is a fine morning for a walk. Martha's lips twitched with what might have been amusement. Pierce, get back to work. Miss Baker and I need to talk. Nathan hesitated, looking at Prudence, who gave him a small, encouraging nod. He touched his hat brim and headed toward the barn where the other hands were already working, though he found it hard to concentrate on anything except what might be happening in the ranch house. An hour passed, then another. Nathan was helping repair a section of fence when he saw Martha and Prudence emerge from the house. They stood talking on the porch for several minutes, then shook hands. Prudence began walking back down the road toward town, and Martha went back inside. Nathan could not stand the suspense. He set down his tools and jogged to the house, knocking on the kitchen door. Martha appeared, looking amused. That did not take long, she said. Well, what happened? I hired her. She starts Monday. She will live in the small cabin behind the house, the one we use for guests when the family visits. She will help with cooking, cleaning, laundry, and anything else I need. I am paying her $15 a month plus room and board. Relief and happiness flooded through Nathan. That is wonderful news. She is a good girl, Pierce, smart, honest, and not afraid of hard work. But she is also vulnerable and alone in the world. You understand what I am saying? Yes, madam. If you hurt her, I will have your hide clear, crystal clear. Martha nodded. Good. Now get back to work. I do not pay you to stand around my kitchen. Nathan grinned and headed back to the fence line, but his mind was already on Monday and the fact that Prudence would be living and working at the ranch. He would see her every day. The thought filled him with a contentment he had not felt in years. That evening, he rode into town and found Prudence at the boarding house, sitting on the porch again with her mending. I heard, he said, climbing the steps to sit beside her. Mrs. Randolph is intimidating but kind, Prudence said, her needle moving steadily through the fabric. She asked me every question imaginable, from how to prepare a roast to how I handle conflict. I think she was testing me. Did you pass? She hired me, did she not? She did. And she also told me if I hurt you, she will have my hide. Prudence looked up from her sewing, her green eyes meeting his. And what did you say to that? I said crystal clear, because I have no intention of hurting you, Prudence. She set down her sewing and turned to face him fully. Nathan, I need to be honest with you about something. I find myself thinking about you constantly since we met. I have never felt this way about anyone before, and it frightens me. I have nothing to offer you except myself, and I am not sure that is enough. Nathan reached out and took her hand, threading his fingers through hers. You are more than enough. I have been alone for so long I forgot what it felt like to want to wake up in the morning, but I want to wake up now because it means maybe I will get to see you. Does that frighten you? Yes, she whispered, but in a good way, I think. Then maybe we can be frightened together and see where this goes. She squeezed his hand. I would like that. They sat together on the porch as the sun set, talking about everything and nothing, their hands linked, and Nathan thought he had never been happier in his entire life. Monday morning arrived with Prudence's belongings, few as they were, loaded onto a wagon that Nathan drove to the ranch. She sat beside him on the bench seat, quiet but clearly excited about this new chapter. The cabin Martha had assigned her was small but clean, with a bed, a dresser, a washstand, and a small stove. There was a window that looked toward the main house and another that faced the mountains in the distance. It is perfect, Prudence said, setting her bag on the bed. I cannot believe this is all mine. You earned it, Nathan reminded her, and you will earn it every day by working hard. I intend to. Martha put Prudence to work immediately, and Nathan quickly learned that his new proximity to her was both a blessing and a torture. He saw her multiple times each day, working in the kitchen, hanging laundry, tending the vegetable garden, and every glimpse made him want to drop everything and just be near her. But he also understood that she needed to establish herself and prove her worth without any suggestion that she was receiving special treatment because of their growing relationship. The other ranch hands noticed, of course. Working men always noticed when there was a pretty woman around, and Prudence was more than pretty. But Nathan made it quietly clear through his presence and attention that she was spoken for, and the men, decent sorts mostly, respected that boundary. 2 weeks after Prudence started at the ranch, Nathan finally managed to steal some time alone with her. He found her after supper, sitting on the steps of her cabin and watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of orange and purple. May I join you? He asked. Please. He sat beside her, their shoulders touching, and for a moment they just watched the sky change colors. Then Prudence spoke softly. I have been thinking about that day you saw me give the coin to Joseph. What about it? You said something shifted in you when you saw it. Something shifted in me too, though I did not realize it until later. What shifted? She turned to look at him, her green eyes serious. I had decided that I was going to go through life alone. After my parents died and I lost everything, I built walls around my heart because it hurt too much to let anyone in. I gave that coin to Joseph not because I was generous, but because I thought helping a stranger was safe. I could feel something good without risking anything. But then you stopped me on those boarding house steps and you looked at me like I mattered, like I was worth knowing, and those walls I built started to crack. Nathan took her hand. I am glad they did. Are you? Because I am terrified, Nathan. I am falling in love with you, and I do not know if I can survive losing someone else I care about. His heart stuttered in his chest. You are falling in love with me. Yes. And I know it is too soon and too fast, but I cannot seem to stop it. Nathan cupped her face with his free hand, his thumb brushing across her cheek. Then do not stop it, because I am falling in love with you too, Prudence. I think I started falling that first moment I saw you, and I have been tumbling ever since. She leaned into his touch, her eyes shining with unshed tears. What do we do now? We take it one day at a time. We keep getting to know each other. We let this grow into something real and solid, and we trust that life might finally be giving us something good instead of taking things away. I would like that, she whispered. He leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted, but she did not. Their lips met softly, a gentle kiss full of promise and hope. When they finally pulled apart, Prudence was smiling through her tears. That was my first kiss, she admitted. Mine too, Nathan confessed. I mean, really. There were some fumbling attempts when I was younger, but nothing that counted, nothing that felt like that. She laughed, the sound like music in the gathering dark. Then we are both learning together. I cannot think of anyone I would rather learn with. They sat together until full darkness fell and the stars emerged, talking quietly about their hopes and dreams and fears. When Nathan finally walked back to the bunkhouse, he felt like he was floating inches above the ground. The summer progressed, and Nathan and Prudence's relationship deepened alongside it. They stole moments together whenever possible, walking along the creek that ran through the ranch property, sitting together after supper, riding into town on Sundays when both had the day free. Nathan taught Prudence to ride better, something her father had started but never finished. She taught him to see beauty in small things he usually overlooked, the way morning light caught in spiderwebs, the sound of birds singing at dawn, the smell of bread baking in the ranch house kitchen. Martha Randolph watched their courtship with approval mixed with protective caution. She pulled Nathan aside one evening in early August and spoke bluntly. "That girl loves you completely," Martha said. "I see it in the way she lights up when you come around. I hope you understand the gift she is giving you." "I do, madam." "Then I hope you have honorable intentions, because if you do not, you should step away now before you break her heart." "My intentions are completely honorable," Nathan assured her. "I want to marry her, Mrs. Randolph. I am just waiting for the right time to ask." Martha's expression softened. "Does she know?" "Not yet. I want to do it properly. Save some money, maybe buy a small piece of land of our own. Give her something real to say yes to." "That girl does not care about land or money, Pierce. She cares about you, but I respect wanting to have something to offer. Just do not wait too long. Life is short and uncertain, especially out here." Her words proved prophetic sooner than anyone expected. In mid-August, news reached the ranch that there had been trouble in town. A group of drifters passing through had gotten drunk and started shooting up the main street. No one was seriously hurt, but several buildings were damaged, including the boarding house where Prudence had lived. "Thank God you got her out of there," one of the other hands said to Nathan when they heard the news. "She could have been hurt." The comment struck Nathan hard. He realized with sudden clarity that Martha was right. Life was uncertain, and he was wasting precious time trying to create perfect circumstances that might never come. What mattered was not what he could offer Prudence in material terms, but what he could promise her in terms of love and commitment and partnership. That evening he found her in the vegetable garden, harvesting tomatoes in the fading light. She looked up when she heard his footsteps, smiling that smile that never failed to make his heart skip. "Nathan, look how many we got today. Martha says we can start making preserves tomorrow." "Prudence, I need to talk to you about something." Her smile faded, replaced by concern. "What is wrong? You look serious." "Nothing is wrong. Everything is right, actually, or I hope it will be." He took a deep breath, suddenly more nervous than he had ever been. "I do not have a ring yet. I do not own land or have much money saved. But I have a steady job and a decent character, and I love you more than I thought it was possible to love another person. I know we have only known each other a few months, but I also know I want to spend the rest of my life with you. So I am asking, imperfectly and probably too soon, but with complete sincerity, will you marry me?" Prudence dropped the basket of tomatoes, her hand flying to her mouth. "Nathan, I know it is fast. I know you deserve better than a proposal in a vegetable garden from a man who has nothing but his heart to offer you. But I heard about the trouble in town, and I realized I do not want to waste another day without you knowing how I feel and what I want for our future." Tears were streaming down her face now. "Do you honestly think I care about rings or land or perfect proposals? Nathan, you saw me at my lowest point when I had nothing and was nobody, and you treated me like I was valuable. You helped me without asking anything in return. You made me believe in good things again. Of course I will marry you." Relief and joy crashed over him like a wave. "Yes, yes," she laughed through her tears. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." He closed the distance between them in 2 strides and swept her into his arms, spinning her around while she laughed and cried and held onto him. When he finally set her down, he kissed her properly, deeply, pouring everything he felt into that kiss. The tomatoes lay forgotten on the ground, and neither of them cared. "When?" Prudence asked when they finally came up for air. "When can we get married?" "As soon as possible. Tomorrow if you want. We need at least a few weeks to make arrangements, and I need a dress. I cannot get married in my work clothes. You could get married in a flour sack and you would still be the most beautiful bride in Colorado." She swatted his arm playfully. "Flatterer, but I want to look nice for you, for us. This is important. Then we will wait as long as you need. But Prudence, I want you to know something. You are not nobody. You never were. You are the woman I am going to spend my life loving. That makes you the most important person in my world." She pressed her face against his chest, her arms tight around his waist. "How did I get so lucky to find you?" "I was thinking the same thing about you." They stood together in the garden as darkness fell completely, wrapped in each other's arms, planning a future that suddenly seemed bright and full of promise. The next few weeks passed in a flurry of activity and preparation. Prudence and Martha went into town and purchased fabric to make a simple but lovely wedding dress, cream-colored cotton with lace trim that Prudence stayed up late each night carefully sewing. Nathan spoke to the ranch owner, James Randolph, about their plans. James, a gruff but fair man in his 50s, surprised Nathan by offering them a small cabin on the far edge of ranch property to live in after the wedding. "It needs work," James said. "Roof needs patching and the chimney probably needs cleaning, but it is solid and it is yours if you want it. You are a good worker, Pierce, and that girl is worth her weight in gold. I would like to keep you both on." "Thank you, sir. That is more than generous. Just promise me you will keep working hard and keep that wife of yours helping Martha. My wife says she has never had such capable assistants." "You have my word." The cabin was small, just 2 rooms and a loft, but it sat on a pretty piece of land near the creek with cottonwood trees providing shade. Nathan spent every spare moment fixing it up, patching the roof, cleaning the chimney, and repairing the porch steps. Some of the other ranch hands helped, bringing odds and ends from their own collections to contribute. A table, 2 chairs, a washstand, even a set of dishes from one of the married hands whose wife had extras. "We take care of our own," one of them explained when Nathan tried to protest the generosity. "You two are good people. You deserve a good start." Prudence cried when Nathan brought her to see the cabin for the first time. She walked through each room slowly, running her hands over the walls and windowsills, looking out at the view of the mountains in the distance. "It is perfect," she said. "It is more than I ever dreamed of having." "It is just the beginning," Nathan promised. "Someday we will have more. Maybe buy our own land, build a bigger house. But this is ours, Prudence, our first home together." She turned to him, her eyes shining. "I do not need more. I do not need bigger. I just need you and this and the life we are building. That is more than enough." They set the wedding date for the first Saturday in September, giving them just enough time to finish preparations. The ceremony would be simple, held at the small church in Unionville with a reception afterward at the ranch. Invitations were extended to the ranch hands, the other ranch families in the area, and some of the townspeople Prudence had gotten to know during her brief time living in town. The day before the wedding, Prudence sought out the beggar named Joseph, finding him in his usual spot on the corner near the general store. He looked up in surprise when she approached, his weathered face breaking into a smile of recognition. "Miss Prudence, I have not seen you in a while. I have been working at the Double R Ranch, but I wanted to come into town today to see you and to thank you." "Thank me? For what?" "For being in that spot on that day when I had one coin left. For giving me the opportunity to help someone, which led to meeting someone who changed my life. I am getting married tomorrow, Joseph, to a good man who saw me give you that coin and somehow saw something in me worth knowing." Joseph's eyes grew misty. "That is wonderful news, miss, just wonderful. I am happy for you." Prudence reached into her pocket and pulled out $2 silver, pressing them into his palm. "I want you to have these, not as charity but as thanks from one friend to another. I cannot take your money on the eve of your wedding. You can and you will, please. It would mean a lot to me." He closed his fingers around the coins and nodded slowly. "Then I accept with gratitude, and I will say a prayer for you and your husband that you have a long and happy life together." "Thank you, Joseph. Take care of yourself. You too, Miss Prudence. You too." She walked away feeling like she had closed a circle somehow, bringing her story back to where it began before starting the next chapter. The wedding day dawned clear and beautiful, with a hint of autumn coolness in the morning air that promised relief from the summer heat. Prudence woke early in her cabin behind the main house, too excited and nervous to sleep. Martha came to help her dress, carefully buttoning up the back of the cream dress and arranging Prudence's hair in an elegant style with small flowers woven through it. "You look beautiful," Martha said, her voice thick with emotion. "Like an angel. I feel like I am dreaming and I am terrified I will wake up. This is real, honey. You found yourself a good man who loves you truly. That is as real as it gets. I know, I just never thought I would have this. After losing everything, I assumed I would spend my life alone. And now I have Nathan and this community and a future I actually look forward to. It feels too good to be true." Martha took her hands firmly. "You listen to me. You deserve every bit of this happiness. You are a good person with a good heart, and you have worked hard for everything you have. Do not doubt yourself or this gift you have been given. Just accept it and be grateful and live your life fully." Prudence hugged her tightly. "Thank you for everything. For giving me a chance, for being kind to me, for helping me find my place here. I will never forget it." "You are like a daughter to me already," Martha said, patting her back. "Now come on. We do not want to keep that young man waiting." At the church, Nathan stood at the altar trying not to fidget with his collar. He wore new clothes for the occasion, a dark suit that had cost him most of his savings but was worth every penny. His hair was freshly cut, his face cleanly shaved, and his heart was beating so hard he was sure everyone in the church could hear it. The small building was full, filled with ranch hands and neighbors and townspeople who had come to witness the union. The preacher, a kind older man named Reverend Matthews, stood beside Nathan and spoke quietly. "Nervous, terrified," Nathan admitted. "That is natural. But son, I have married many couples in my years, and I can tell you that what you and Miss Baker have is special. I have seen the way you look at each other. That is the real thing." Before Nathan could respond, the church door opened and Prudence appeared on Martha's arm. Nathan's breath caught in his throat. She was ethereal, beautiful beyond words, glowing with happiness and love. Her green eyes found his immediately, and when she smiled, Nathan felt like the luckiest man alive. She walked down the short aisle slowly, and when Martha placed Prudence's hand in Nathan's at the altar, he squeezed gently, feeling her squeeze back. The ceremony was simple and traditional, with the preacher speaking about love and commitment and partnership. Nathan and Prudence exchanged vows they had written themselves, promising to love and honor and cherish each other through whatever life brought. When it came time for the rings, Nathan produced 2 simple gold bands he had purchased in town, plain but solid, symbols of the life they were building together. "I, Nathan Pierce, take you, Prudence Baker, to be my wife," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm him. "I promise to love you faithfully, to support your dreams, to stand beside you in good times and bad, to be the partner you deserve for as long as I live." Prudence's voice shook as she spoke her vows. "I, Prudence Baker, take you, Nathan Pierce, to be my husband. I promise to love you completely, to build a home with you, to face whatever comes with courage because I have you beside me. You saw me when I felt invisible. You valued me when I thought I had nothing to offer. I will spend my life showing you that your faith in me was not misplaced. By the power vested in me by the territory of Colorado, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Nathan, you may kiss your bride." Nathan cupped Prudence's face in his hands and kissed her softly, then more deeply as the small congregation erupted in applause and cheers. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling through happy tears. "Mrs. Pierce," Nathan whispered. "Mr. Pierce," she replied. They walked back down the aisle together, hand in hand, out into the bright September sunshine to begin their new life. The reception at the ranch was lively and joyful, with food and music and dancing. Someone had brought a fiddle, someone else a guitar, and soon there was a full celebration underway. Nathan and Prudence danced together, neither of them skilled at it but both laughing and not caring. They were surrounded by friends and well-wishers, people who genuinely cared about them and wanted to celebrate their happiness. As the sun began to set, casting golden light across the ranch, Nathan and Prudence slipped away from the party and walked hand in hand to their cabin. Someone had decorated the porch with wildflowers and left a lamp burning in the window. Inside, everything was tidy and welcoming, their few belongings already arranged to make it feel like home. "Are you happy?" Nathan asked, closing the door behind them and pulling Prudence into his arms. "Happier than I knew was possible," she replied, resting her head against his chest. "I keep thinking about that day I gave Joseph that coin. If I had walked a different way, or if you had not been there to see it, or if you had not been brave enough to approach me, none of this would be happening. It feels like fate. Maybe it was. Maybe we were always meant to find each other, and everything that happened before was just leading us to that moment." She tilted her face up to look at him. "I love you, Nathan Pierce. I love you, Prudence Pierce. And I am going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret saying yes to me. I could never regret it. You are my home now. Wherever you are, that is where I belong." They stood together in the lamplight, 2 people who had both been lost and alone, now found and together, beginning the greatest adventure of their lives. The first months of marriage were an adjustment as they learned to live together and build their daily routines. Prudence continued working for Martha in the mornings, but her afternoons were now spent tending their own small household, cooking meals for Nathan and herself, making their cabin into a home. Nathan worked hard at the ranch, but he made sure to always come home to Prudence each evening, to share supper and conversation and the quiet intimacy of being together. As autumn turned to winter, they settled into a comfortable rhythm. They talked about everything, sharing their thoughts and dreams and fears. Nathan learned that Prudence sang while she worked, soft melodies her mother had taught her. Prudence discovered that Nathan liked to read, though he had few books, and she made a project of borrowing from anyone who would lend them so he always had something new. They also learned to navigate disagreements and difficulties. There was the time Nathan came home exhausted and short-tempered after a particularly hard day, and snapped at Prudence over something trivial. She responded with hurt silence, and they spent a miserable evening avoiding each other until Nathan finally apologized, and they worked through what was really bothering him. There was the time Prudence burned an entire meal because she was distracted, and she was so upset with herself that Nathan had to spend an hour convincing her it did not matter. They could just eat bread and cheese and laugh about it. But through all the small challenges, their love deepened and strengthened. They learned each other's patterns and moods, how to give each other space when needed, and how to provide comfort when wanted. They became partners in the truest sense, two people building a life together through daily choices and small acts of love. Winter in Colorado was harsh, with deep snow and bitter cold that kept everyone close to home. Nathan and Prudence spent long evenings by their fireplace, talking and reading and simply being together. It was during one of these evenings in late January that Prudence broke some news that changed everything again. "Nathan, I need to tell you something." He looked up from the piece of leather he was working with, making a new bridle. "What is it?" "I am with child. We are going to have a baby." Nathan set down his work slowly, his eyes wide. "Are you certain?" "As certain as I can be. I have missed my courses twice now, and I have been feeling ill in the mornings. I think it happened around Christmas time." A grin spread across Nathan's face, growing wider by the second. "We are going to have a baby. Prudence, we are going to be parents. You are happy?" She asked, though his expression made the question unnecessary. "Happy. I am ecstatic. I am terrified. I am everything all at once." He moved to kneel in front of her chair, taking her hands. "How are you feeling? Are you well? Do you need anything?" "I am fine. A little tired and queasy in the mornings, but Martha says that is normal. She has already started giving me advice. I think she is as excited as we are. When will the baby come?" "I think around September. Early autumn." Nathan pressed his forehead against her clasped hands, overwhelmed with emotion. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For choosing me. For building this life with me. For giving me a family again. I never thought I would have this, Prudence. After I lost my parents and spent so long alone, I thought family was something in my past. But now I have you, and soon we will have a child, and it is more than I ever dreamed possible." Prudence freed one hand to stroke his hair. "We are building something good together, something that will last." The pregnancy progressed through the late winter and into spring. Prudence continued working for Martha as long as she felt able, though both women were careful to avoid tasks that were too strenuous. Nathan became increasingly protective, worrying about her constantly even though Prudence insisted she was fine. "Women have been having babies since the beginning of time," she reminded him when he fussed over her lifting a water bucket. "I am not made of glass. I know. I just want to take care of you. You do take care of me, but you also need to trust me to know my own limits. I will ask for help when I need it." As her body changed, growing round with their child, Nathan found her even more beautiful than before. He loved watching her move around their cabin, one hand unconsciously resting on her belly, humming those songs her mother taught her. He loved lying beside her at night, feeling the baby kick against his palm, marveling at the life they had created together. They spent hours discussing names, debating everything from traditional family names to names they simply liked the sound of. They prepared the loft space as a nursery, making a cradle from wood scraps and receiving donations of baby clothes and blankets from the other families on the ranch. "Boy or girl?" Nathan asked one evening as they sat together on their porch watching the spring sunset. "I do not know. What do you hope for?" "I just want healthy. But if I am being honest, maybe a boy first, someone to help around the ranch as he grows." Prudence smiled. "I think a girl. Someone I can teach to cook and sew and be strong in the way women need to be strong in this world. Either way, they will be loved. That is what matters." "That is what matters," Prudence agreed. Summer brought intense heat again, made more difficult by Prudence's advancing pregnancy. She moved slowly, carefully, but she never complained. Nathan adjusted his work schedule to spend more time at home, worried about leaving her alone as her due date approached. In late August, Prudence began having false labor pains that sent Nathan into a panic. Martha came to the cabin and calmly explained that this was normal, the body preparing for the real event. But Nathan remained on edge, jumping at every sound and checking on Prudence constantly. "You are going to drive yourself mad," Prudence told him, though she was clearly touched by his concern. "The baby will come when the baby is ready. I just want you to be safe, both of you. We will be. Women do this every day, and Martha will be here to help. Everything is going to be fine." On the 5th of September, just as the air began to hold the first hints of autumn coolness, Prudence woke Nathan in the early morning hours with a hand on his shoulder. "Nathan, it is time." He was instantly awake, his heart pounding. "Are you sure?" "I am sure. The pains are regular and strong. You need to fetch Martha." Nathan scrambled into his clothes and ran to the main house, pounding on the door until Martha appeared, already mostly dressed as if she had been expecting this. "It is time," she asked. "It is time. Go boil water and gather clean towels. I will be right there." The next 12 hours were the longest of Nathan's life. He did everything Martha told him to do, fetching and carrying and trying to stay out of the way. He held Prudence's hand when she needed him, wiped her face with cool cloths, and tried to stay calm even though he was terrified. Childbirth was dangerous, he knew. Women died. Babies died. The risks were real and numerous, but Prudence was strong, stronger than he had ever imagined. She labored through the day with determination and courage, never crying out, though he could see the pain in her eyes. Martha coached her through each contraction, her voice steady and reassuring. As the sun began to set, painting the room in golden light, Prudence gave one final tremendous push, and a baby's cry filled the cabin. Nathan felt tears streaming down his face as Martha wrapped the infant in a clean cloth and laid the baby on Prudence's chest. "You have a son," Martha said, smiling broadly. "A healthy, strong boy." Prudence looked down at the squalling infant with wonder, her face exhausted but radiant. "A son." "Nathan, we have a son." Nathan moved closer, looking down at the tiny red face, the small fists waving in the air, the shock of dark hair. "He is perfect." "He looks like you," Prudence said softly, touching the baby's cheek with one finger. "He has your eyes," Nathan replied, though the infant's eyes were still unfocused and unclear. Martha bustled around, cleaning up and making sure both mother and baby were healthy. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, she finally declared everything satisfactory and prepared to leave. "You two rest. I will come by tomorrow to check on you. Nathan, make sure your wife eats and drinks plenty of water. Prudence, do not hesitate to send for me if you need anything at all." "Thank you, Martha," Prudence said, "for everything." "It was my honor, honey. Congratulations to you both." After Martha left, Nathan and Prudence were alone with their son for the first time. The baby had quieted and was now making small, snuffling sounds, his tiny hand wrapped around Prudence's finger. "What should we name him?" Nathan asked softly. "I was thinking Noah. It was my father's name, but only if you like it." "Noah Pierce," Nathan said, testing it. "I like it. It is strong and good. Noah it is then." Nathan carefully climbed onto the bed beside Prudence, putting his arm around her shoulders so she could lean against him while she held their son. They stayed like that for a long time, just looking at the tiny person they had created, marveling at his perfection. "I love you," Nathan whispered to Prudence. "Thank you for him. Thank you for giving me this family. I love you too, and I would do it again 100 times over. He is worth everything." Little Noah made a squeaking sound, and they both laughed softly, already completely captivated by their son. The first months of Noah's life were exhausting and wonderful in equal measure. Prudence was tired constantly from the demands of nursing and caring for a newborn, and Nathan helped as much as he could, changing the baby, walking with him when he cried, and trying to let Prudence sleep whenever possible. But despite the exhaustion, both parents were happier than they had ever been. Noah was a good baby, healthy and strong, with his father's dark hair and his mother's green eyes. He grew quickly, and soon he was smiling at them, then laughing, then trying to roll over. Every milestone was a celebration, every small development a source of wonder. James Randolph had been generous when Noah was born, giving Nathan a week off to be with his family, and then allowing him to adjust his schedule afterward so he could spend more time at home. The other ranch hands helped pick up the slack, genuinely happy for Nathan and Prudence and willing to support them during this time. As winter approached again, their second winter as a married couple, Nathan and Prudence settled into their new rhythm as parents. Prudence had mostly stopped working for Martha, at least for now, focusing instead on caring for Noah and managing their household. Money was tighter without her income, but they managed by being frugal and creative. On a cold evening in December, with Noah sleeping peacefully in his cradle and a fire crackling in the hearth, Nathan pulled Prudence close on the small sofa they had acquired. "Are you happy?" he asked, as he had on their wedding night. "Happier than I have any right to be," she replied, snuggling against him. "Sometimes I still cannot believe this is my life, that I have you and Noah in this home. It seems like a dream." "It is not a dream, it is real. We built this together. Do you ever think about that day? When you first saw me, I think about it often. How close I came to just walking into the store instead of watching you. How easily we might have missed each other completely. I think about it too, about how I almost did not give Joseph that coin because I was afraid I would need it. But something inside me insisted, and because I listened to that voice, I found you. Strange how small choices can change everything." Nathan kissed the top of her head. "I am grateful for every choice that led us here, the good ones and the hard ones. Me too." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the fire and Noah's soft breathing. Finally, Prudence spoke again. "Nathan, I have been thinking. I know we are still adjusting to having Noah, but I want more children someday. I want Noah to have brothers and sisters. I want our family to grow. Is that something you want too?" "I want everything with you," Nathan said honestly. "More children, a full life, growing old together, watching our grandchildren play. I want it all." "Good, because I have a feeling Noah is not going to be an only child for long." "Are you saying what I think you are saying?" Prudence laughed. "No, I am not with child again already, but soon, maybe, when we are ready. Whenever you are ready, I am ready. I love you, Nathan Pierce. I love you, Prudence Pierce, with everything I am." The years passed in a steady progression of seasons and milestones. Noah grew from a baby into a toddler, learning to walk and talk and explore his world with fearless curiosity. When he was 2 years old, Prudence gave birth to their second child, a daughter they named Pearl. 2 years after that came another son, Nicholas, and then 2 years after that, another daughter, Penelope. Their little cabin became cramped with 4 children, and Nathan and James Randolph worked out an arrangement where Nathan could earn extra money to build an addition. With the help of the other ranch hands on weekends, the cabin grew to include 3 bedrooms and a larger kitchen, enough space for their growing family. Money was always tight, but they never lacked for the essentials. Nathan had proven himself invaluable at the Double R, and his wages increased steadily over the years. Prudence took in sewing and mending when she could find time between caring for the children, adding a little extra to their income. They saved carefully, planning for the future and for unexpected hardships. Through it all, their love remained strong. They still stole moments together when they could, walking by the creek after the children were in bed, sitting together on the porch in the evenings, and finding ways to show each other affection despite the constant demands of parenthood. They continued to communicate openly, working through disagreements and supporting each other through challenges. There were hard times too. The winter Noah turned 4. All the children got sick with a fever that had Prudence and Nathan terrified they would lose one or all of them. They sat up for 3 nights straight, taking turns cooling fevered foreheads and forcing water down small throats. But all 4 children recovered, and Nathan and Prudence emerged from the crisis even more grateful for their family. There was the year the drought hit, and the ranch had to let go of several hands, and Nathan feared he would be among them. But James kept him on, recognizing his loyalty and skill, though there was no money for raises that year. Prudence sold some of her mother's jewelry, kept all these years, to help them through the lean months, and they came out the other side still together, still strong. When Noah turned 10, he began helping Nathan at the ranch, learning the skills of ranching and cowboying that would serve him well in life. Nathan loved teaching his son, seeing echoes of himself in the boy's serious expression as he learned to rope and ride. Pearl, at 8, was already showing her mother's gift for kindness, always the first to comfort a younger sibling or help a neighbor in need. Nicholas, at 6, was fearless and adventurous, keeping his parents constantly worried but also constantly entertained. And Penelope, at 4, was the baby of the family, sweet and gentle and utterly adored by everyone. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Nathan surprised Prudence by taking her back to Unionville for supper at the hotel where they had their first meal together. Martha and James agreed to watch the children for the evening, and Nathan and Prudence dressed in their best clothes and rode into town together, just the 2 of them. The hotel dining room looked exactly the same, and they sat at the same table they had occupied a decade before. Nathan reached across and took Prudence's hand, running his thumb over the calluses and small scars that told the story of years of hard work. 10 years, he said. It has gone by so fast, and so slow, Prudence added. Some days with 4 young children feel like they last forever. But then I look up and Noah is 10 years old and I wonder where the time went. You have any regrets? Anything you wish had been different? Prudence considered the question seriously before answering. I wish money had been easier sometimes. I wish we could have given the children more. But regrets? No. Every choice we made led us here, and I would not change any of it. We have built a good life together, Nathan. We have raised good children. We have loved each other well. That is more than most people get. I wish I had been able to give you more, Nathan admitted. I know you deserve better than a small cabin and a life of constant work. Nathan Pierce, look at me. She waited until his eyes met hers. You have given me everything that matters. You saw value in me when I thought I had none. You loved me when I felt unlovable. You have been a devoted husband and father, working yourself to the bone to provide for us. You have been patient with me, kind to me, faithful to me. What more could I possibly want? Land of our own, maybe. A bigger house. Hired help so you do not have to work so hard. Those would be nice, Prudence acknowledged. But they would not make me love you more or make our family stronger. We have what we need. We have each other. Nathan raised her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. How did I get so lucky? We both got lucky. That day you saw me give Joseph that coin, fate or God or the universe decided to give us both a gift. We were both lost, both alone, both needing someone to matter to, and somehow we found each other. Have you seen Joseph lately? I know you try to check on him when we come to town. Prudence's expression saddened. He passed away last winter, pneumonia. But before he died, I got to tell him about our family, about how that chance meeting led to all of this. He said he felt like he had played a part in something good, and that gave his life meaning. It was a comfort to him at the end. I am sorry. I know he mattered to you. He did. He was a reminder to me of where I came from and how far we have come. I will miss him. They finished their meal and walked through Unionville as the sun set, pointing out changes that had occurred over the years. New buildings had gone up. Old ones had been torn down, but the town retained its essential character. They stopped by the boarding house where Prudence had lived so briefly, and she smiled at the memories. I was so scared then, she said. So uncertain about everything. I had no idea what my future held. And now I know. My future is with you and our children. Building our life day by day. It is not glamorous or easy, but it is ours and it is good. They rode back to the ranch under the stars, and Nathan felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for his life. It was not the life he had imagined as a young man, but it was better than anything he could have planned for himself. He had a wife he loved deeply, children who brought him joy, meaningful work, and a place in a community. That was wealth beyond measure. The years continued to pass in their steady rhythm. The children grew older, each developing their own personalities and interests. Noah proved himself a natural cowboy, skilled with horses and cattle, and began taking on more responsibility at the ranch. Pearl discovered a talent for teaching and began helping with the younger children of other ranch families, earning a little money and a lot of satisfaction. Nicholas remained adventurous and was constantly exploring the surrounding countryside, coming home with stories of things he had seen and places he had been. Penelope grew into a creative child who loved drawing and making up stories, often entertaining the family with her elaborate tales. Nathan and Prudence navigated the challenges of raising older children, dealing with teenage moods and emerging independence while trying to guide without controlling. There were arguments and slammed doors, tears and reconciliations. But through it all, the family remained strong, bound together by love and shared history. When Noah turned 18, he announced his intention to ask for a job as a full ranch hand at the Double R rather than just helping his father. James Randolph agreed, recognizing the young man's skill and work ethic. Nathan felt pride mixed with melancholy as he watched his oldest son step into adulthood. Prudence cried the night Noah moved into the bunkhouse with the other hands, mourning the loss of her boy, even as she celebrated the man he was becoming. They grow up so fast, she said to Nathan as they sat together on their porch, the same porch where they had sat countless evenings over the years. They do. But we raised him well. He will be fine. I know. It is just hard to let go. We are not letting go. We are just loosening our grip a little. He will always be our son. And we have 3 more to raise yet. I suppose I should not get too sentimental. Nathan put his arm around her, and she leaned into his familiar warmth. You are allowed to feel what you feel. Being a parent means experiencing these milestones with all the joy and pain they bring. When did you get so wise? I have had a good teacher, Nathan replied, kissing the top of her head. The following year brought changes none of them expected. James Randolph died suddenly of a heart attack, leaving the ranch to his son who lived in Denver. The son had no interest in running a ranch and put it up for sale. Nathan and Prudence worried about what this would mean for their family and livelihood. But fate, it seemed, was not done being kind to them yet. A group of the longtime ranch hands, including Nathan, approached the new owner with a proposal to buy the ranch collectively, each contributing what they could and sharing ownership equally. It was an unusual arrangement, but the owner agreed, eager to settle his father's estate and return to Denver. Nathan and Prudence had saved money over the years, enough to buy a share in the collective ownership. It meant depleting their savings completely, but it also meant security and a stake in something real. They would be part owners of the Double R, not just employees. The vote among the hands was unanimous, and the papers were signed in the spring of 1895, 18 years after Nathan and Prudence had met. "We own land," Prudence said wonderingly, looking at the deed with their names on it. "We actually own part of this ranch. We worked for it," Nathan replied. "Every day for 18 years we worked for this. The children will have inheritance now, something real to pass on. And we can stay here as long as we want. This is home, truly and permanently." That night they lay in bed talking about the future with renewed excitement. They were in their early 40s now, not young anymore, but not old either. They had years ahead of them still, years to enjoy the fruits of their labor and watch their children build lives of their own. The next few years brought more changes and milestones. Pearl met a young man from a neighboring ranch and began courting him seriously. He was a good man from a good family, and Nathan approved, though he joked with Prudence that he was not ready to lose his daughter. When Pearl turned 20, she married her sweetheart in a wedding that reminded Nathan and Prudence of their own simple ceremony years before. She moved to her husband's ranch, 20 miles away, and Prudence cried, but was also happy for her daughter's joy. Nicholas, true to his adventurous nature, announced at 17 that he wanted to try his luck in the Colorado gold fields. Nathan tried to talk him out of it, worried about the dangers and likely disappointment, but Prudence reminded him that young men needed to make their own choices and mistakes. They let him go with their blessing and a small amount of money and hoped he would stay safe. Penelope continued to surprise them with her creativity and intelligence. She began writing stories that she submitted to magazines and newspapers, and to everyone's amazement, some of them were accepted for publication. She earned small amounts of money for her work, but more importantly, she had found her passion and purpose. And Noah, steady, reliable Noah, continued working at the ranch, becoming one of the most respected hands despite his youth. He met a young woman in town, a schoolteacher named Sarah, and Nathan and Prudence watched their son fall in love with the same depth and devotion they had shown each other. On a clear autumn evening in 1900, Nathan and Prudence sat together on their porch, as they had done thousands of times before. They were 49 and 44 years old, respectively, their hair showing threads of gray, their faces lined by years of sun and work. But when they looked at each other, they still saw the young people who had met on a dusty street in Unionville 23 years ago. "You remember what you said to me that first night at supper?" Nathan asked suddenly. "I said a lot of things. Which part?" "You said you were nobody with nothing to offer. Do you still feel that way?" Prudence laughed. "No, I do not suppose I do. I am a wife, a mother, a part owner of a ranch, a grandmother as of last month when Pearl had her baby. I am somebody, and I have quite a lot actually. Why do you ask?" "Because I want you to understand what you gave me that day when you let me buy you supper. You gave a drifting cowboy a reason to stop drifting. You gave a lonely man a family. You gave someone who had lost everyone he loved a whole new life worth living. You were never nobody, Prudence." You were always everything from the very first moment. Tears filled her eyes. You are going to make me cry. I am just telling you the truth. I saw you give away your last coin and I knew you had a golden heart. That was the wisest thing I ever knew, and the luckiest thing that ever happened to me was convincing you to take a chance on me. We took a chance on each other, Prudence corrected. And look at what we built. 4 incredible children who are building their own lives, a home, a community, a partnership that has weathered everything life threw at it. I am proud of us, Nathan, proud of what we made together. I am too. They sat in comfortable silence as the sun set over the mountains, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink and purple. The air was cooling as autumn deepened, and soon winter would come again as it did every year. But they would face it together, as they had faced everything for more than 2 decades. What do you think our future holds? Prudence asked. We are getting older. Have you thought about what comes next? I think about it sometimes, Nathan admitted. I want to watch our children continue to grow and thrive. I want to meet more grandchildren. I want to work this ranch as long as my body lets me, and then maybe take it a little easier and let the younger men do the heavy lifting. Mostly, I want more days like this one, sitting here with you, grateful for the life we built. That sounds perfect to me. We have been blessed, Prudence. More than we deserved, maybe. We worked for our blessings, she replied firmly. We made good choices, treated people well, and built something solid. We earned what we have. You are right. We did. He reached over and took her hand, threading their fingers together as they had done countless times. I love you as much today as I did the day I married you. More, actually. More. More. Because now I know you fully. I know your strength and your kindness and your resilience. I know how you love our children and how you build community wherever you are. I know how you have been my partner in the truest sense. Young love is beautiful, but this love, built over decades of daily choosing each other, this is even better. I feel the same way. You have been everything I needed, Nathan. Everything I did not even know to ask for. You have been my safe place, my home, my greatest adventure. They leaned together, foreheads touching, and stayed that way as darkness fell and stars emerged overhead. 2 people who had started with nothing but each other and built a lifetime of love and meaning. In the years that followed, their life continued its rhythm. Nicholas returned from the gold fields after 2 years, richer in experience if not in gold, and settled down to work at the ranch alongside his father and brother. He married a practical young woman who helped ground his adventurous spirit, and they built a small house on the ranch property. Penelope's writing career grew, and she moved to Denver to be closer to publishing opportunities. She visited regularly and always brought her latest published stories to share with her parents, who read every word with pride even when they did not fully understand the urban settings she often wrote about. Pearl had 3 children in quick succession, and Prudence delighted in being a grandmother, making the trip to visit whenever she could spare the time. Nathan loved watching his wife with their grandchildren, seeing how she passed on the same love and wisdom she had given their own children. As Nathan and Prudence moved into their 50s, they began to slow down naturally. Nathan handed off more of the physical ranch work to younger men, though he remained involved in management decisions as a part owner. Prudence spent less time on heavy housework and more time on projects she enjoyed, like quilting and maintaining an expanded garden that supplied vegetables for several ranch families. They dealt with losses too, as life always demands. Martha Randolph passed away peacefully in her sleep at the age of 78, and both Nathan and Prudence mourned the woman who had been instrumental in bringing them together and supporting their family. They attended funerals for friends and fellow ranch hands, each loss a reminder of life's fragility and preciousness. But they also experienced profound joys. They celebrated 25 years of marriage with all 4 children, and most of their grandchildren present. A rowdy, joyful gathering that lasted an entire weekend. They watched Noah become a father and then a grandfather himself, marveling at how the family continued to grow and branch. They saw Pearl's oldest daughter become a teacher like her father's family, continuing a tradition of education and service. Through it all, Nathan and Prudence remained each other's constant. They still sat together on the porch most evenings when weather allowed. They still talked about everything, their communication deepened by decades of practice. They still found ways to show affection and appreciation, small gestures that meant everything. When Nathan turned 60, he admitted to Prudence that he was finally feeling his age. His back ached from years of hard labor, his hands were stiff in the mornings, and he tired more easily. Prudence, at 55, acknowledged similar struggles. They were not old exactly, but they were no longer young, and their bodies reflected the hard life they had lived. "Should we think about moving to town?" Nathan asked one evening. "Get a small house in Unionville where everything is easier to access." Prudence considered this seriously before shaking her head. "No, this is our home. We built our life here. I want to stay as long as we are able. When we truly cannot manage anymore, we can reconsider. But not yet. I am glad. I do not want to leave either." "We still have good years ahead of us," Prudence insisted. "We are slowing down, but we are not done. There are still grandchildren to meet, gardens to tend, stories to share. Let us not give up the life we love just because it is harder than it used to be." "You are right. We stay." And stay they did. They adapted their routines to accommodate their aging bodies, accepting help from their children and grandchildren with grace rather than stubbornness. They found new ways to contribute. Nathan sharing his decades of ranching wisdom with younger hands, Prudence teaching grandchildren to cook and sew and telling stories of the old days. On a summer evening in 1915, 38 years after they first met, Nathan and Prudence sat on their familiar porch watching the sunset. They were 70 and 65 years old, white-haired and weathered but still strong in spirit. Around them, the ranch bustled with activity as it always had, voices of workers and children mingling with the sounds of animals and wind in the cottonwoods. 38 years, Nathan mused. "More than half my life with you. The better half," Prudence said with a smile. "Definitely the better half. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I had not been standing there that day, if I had not seen you give Joseph that coin? I try not to wonder. It is too frightening to contemplate. My life would have been so different, so much emptier. Instead of everything we have built, I would have just been surviving alone. We saved each other, I think. We did, and we built something that will outlast us. Look at our family, Nathan. 4 children who are good people raising good children of their own. We started a legacy that will continue for generations. I am proud of that, proud of them, proud of us." Prudence reached over and took his hand, the gesture as natural now as breathing. "I want you to know something. If I had my life to live over, if I could go back to that moment when I pressed my last coin into Joseph's hand, I would not change a single thing. Every choice, every hardship, every joy, it all led me exactly where I was meant to be." Nathan's eyes grew misty. "I feel the same way. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, Prudence Pierce. You made me a better man. You gave me a life worth living. And you saw me when I was invisible. You valued me when I had nothing. You loved me faithfully for nearly 4 decades. What more could anyone ask from a life?" They sat together as the last light faded from the sky. 2 people who had taken a chance on each other long ago and built something beautiful from their faith and commitment. Their bodies were old now, but their love remained as young and vital as it had been that first evening when they shared supper in a hotel dining room. The years that followed were gentler, quieter. Nathan and Prudence continued living in their cabin with help from their children who took turns checking on them and assisting with tasks that had become too difficult. They attended family gatherings and celebrations, watching their family tree expand with new marriages and births. They held great-grandchildren on their laps and told stories of the old days, of a time when Colorado was wilder and life was harder, but also simpler in some ways. They celebrated 40 years of marriage surrounded by 3 generations of family, a testament to the life they had built together. They were slower now, more fragile, but their minds remained sharp and their love remained constant. On a cool autumn morning in 1920, 43 years after they met, Nathan woke in bed beside Prudence as he had done thousands of times before. But something was different. Prudence was still, too still, and when he reached for her, her skin was cool. She had passed peacefully in her sleep, gone without pain or fear, her last expression one of contentment. Nathan sat with her for a long time, holding her hand, memorizing her face one last time before finally calling for their children. The grief that followed was profound, a loss that left a hole in his heart nothing could fill. But even in his grief, he felt gratitude. They had been blessed with 43 years together, building a life and family that would endure. She had not suffered at the end, had not been afraid. She had simply finished her story and moved on. The family gathered to lay Prudence to rest in the small cemetery that served the ranch and surrounding area. Nathan stood at her graveside, supported by his children, and spoke words that came from the deepest part of his soul. "I met her when we were both lost and alone. She gave her last coin to a beggar, and I knew she had a golden heart. I spent the next 43 years being grateful that she chose to share that heart with me. She was the best person I have ever known, the best thing that ever happened to me, and she made me want to be worthy of her. I will miss her every day for whatever time I have left, but I will not mourn. She lived fully and loved deeply and left the world better than she found it. What more can anyone hope for?" He visited her grave every day after that, sitting nearby and talking to her as if she could still hear. He told her about the grandchildren and great-grandchildren, about changes at the ranch, about his memories of their life together. He found comfort in these one-sided conversations, feeling somehow that she was still with him even if he could no longer see her. Nathan lived 2 more years after Prudence passed, years he spent surrounded by family and filled with memories. He taught his great-grandchildren to rope and ride, as he had taught his children and grandchildren. He shared stories of the old days, of a wild Colorado that was rapidly changing into something more civilized. He made peace with his life and prepared himself to join Prudence when his time came. On a spring morning in 1922, Nathan Pierce passed away quietly in his sleep at the age of 77. His children found him with a small smile on his face, and on the table beside his bed was a faded photograph of him and Prudence on their wedding day, young and hopeful and deeply in love. They buried him beside Prudence, together again as they had been in life. The entire community turned out for the funeral, testament to the respect and love Nathan and Prudence had earned over their decades in Colorado. Their children spoke of their parents' love story, how a simple act of kindness had led to a lifetime of commitment and family. The grandchildren shared memories of their wisdom and generosity. The great-grandchildren, some too young to fully understand, listened to stories of ancestors who had built something lasting. And at the ranch, life continued. The Pierce family remained part owners and active participants, generation after generation choosing to stay and build on the foundation Nathan and Prudence had laid. The little cabin where they raised their children was preserved and eventually became a gathering place for family celebrations, a physical reminder of where everything began. The story of the cowboy who saw a woman, Give her last coin to a beggar and knew she had a golden heart became family legend, passed down through generations as an example of how love can transform lives and create legacies. Children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren learned that true wealth is not measured in gold or land, but in relationships and character, and the families we build through daily choices to love and serve each other. Nathan and Prudence Pierce left behind 4 children, 11 grandchildren, 23 great-grandchildren, and eventually countless descendants who carried forward their values and their story. They proved that a simple act of kindness witnessed by the right person at the right time can change everything, creating ripples that extend far beyond what anyone could imagine. Their graves remain in the small cemetery, side by side, marked by simple headstones that bear their names and dates and one line that captures the essence of their story. They built a life of love together. And every year on the anniversary of their wedding, their descendants gather at those graves to remember and celebrate the love story that started with a last coin given to a beggar and a cowboy who knew what really mattered in this world.